What's up, peeps? I hope you're ready for this episode of 5 Questions with Frank. My guest today was called Brilliant with Branding by the legendary Damon John. Grant Cardone said he's a branding genius. Everyone tuning in, please buckle up for this ride with David Brier. David wrote the Branding Bible, an Amazon bestseller, Brand Intervention. 33 steps to transform the brand you have into the brand you need. And he's a chief gravity defier at DBD International, where he's worked with firms like Revlon, Estee Lauder, Jim Henson Associates, Rolling Stone, and the New York Times Magazine. David, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Absolutely. Glad that we could make it, my man.
All right. So been connected with you for a while on LinkedIn. You put out, I don't know how you do it, man, because people say, Frank, how do you put out so much content on LinkedIn? I mean, you're doing double, triple what I'm doing. So kudos to you there for having such an amazing presence on LinkedIn, and you put out such amazing stuff. I mean, you obviously understand branding very well, and I'm excited to learn more and share more about that today. But before we get going into the Q&A piece of it, I'd love for you to give a little context to the audience about who David is and what makes you tick.
Cool. Well, let's see. For those, I'll kind of start for those that may not know, may not have heard of me. So the basic thing is native New Yorker. Now I work and live in the Midwest, and most people go, "What the hell? Why that?" And I tell them the witness protection program to tell you more. I'd have to kill you. But the basic thing is this: is that what I do is, and I've been doing for this year. Been doing it for 40 years, dude. Okay, 40 years. So the thing is that I take companies, whether they're new companies or existing companies that have been in a while, and as well as in services, products. I've branded cities. It doesn't matter. Some people think, well, a brand is a thing, like on a shelf. No, that's a very incomplete concept. Bottom line is Frank, you have a brand. I have a brand. A brand is what you and I come to know as a thing, as distinct and differentiated from the other things in the same category. Right. So I basically give the voice and the language, the look and the feel so that my companies, my clients are unmistakable and actually, that they absolutely grow, get the traction, and are impossible to ignore.
Man, so I can't wait to dig in some of this stuff because I've seen a lot of your content. You've, as I mentioned, you wrote this book here, which has so many great tidbits in there, and you share a lot of great content that I've been able to consume too. So really, really looking forward to diving into the Q&A. And the first question I'd love to ask is, you just said 40 years. It seems like forever. So you've seen so much, because if you look at that timeline there and your experience, I mean, you do bring so much value to what you've seen and seen how brands adapt. So how did you get to where you are today? You said you started out in New York and now you're out in the Midwest. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got to be this branding expert that you are today.
Well, I was always very, growing up in New York, I was always very, very interested in anything that really managed to kind of grab you by the collar and say, I'm here. If it was a movie, it was a piece of music, if it was art, if it was someone performing in the streets in Washington Square Park or wherever. And so that was just something that I was always attracted to. I didn't know as I was in college, was I going to be I was an art major, but was I going to be an illustrator, fine artist, or was I going to be a designer? I chose, it was a very conscious decision. I'd seen something and it shifted my whole understanding of the craft of design and message and impact. And I was like, wow, there were so many layers to this particular magazine that's no longer in existence, but it was just riveting to me. So I made a conscious decision. I was going to be a designer because I wanted to control the whole, the outcome of the message, right? I didn't want it to just be, I'll do a piece and then hand it off to an art director or a brand or something like that, and then just sort of hope for the best. So I wanted to kind of have a more ownership of the actual what happened there. And that's basically how it started. So I started out as a logo designer. This is well before computers. So today, people who have only grown up on computers, they hear, designer or designing logos and stuff like that. They probably think of some of these online services, which I have a very low opinion of, because they don't do their proper homework. You can't design isn't lipstick. Okay. Design isn't, does this color look good on me? Right. Design, and branding is much more than that. Branding isn't just, hey, does this make me look pretty? Or how does this work with my hair? It's not just a cosmetic. It's like, as as all of us know, we get into brands. We find out about brands. What do they stand for? What are their values? What are the stories that they tell us? What are the journeys they take us on? That's the stuff that connects. And so that's the foundation. And on top of that, the other stuff amplifies and grows and gives more dimension to the brand. So that's basically how I started. I started as a designer, and then it started just to organically expand from there.
Man. So you've seen a lot, and you've been exposed, to not only very large brands that you've worked with, and smaller brands, and seen some impact that you've done there and some changes, and you work with so many different people, not only from corporate America, but smaller businesses who are trying to figure this out and trying to stand out in a very crowded space. What's a piece of advice that you would give to those tuning in who are maybe stuck, either they're trying to establish their brand, or they're looking maybe into the rebrand because they know that they need to do something different? What would you give for advice?
Well, the first thing is you don't want to be too short term in your thinking. You don't want to go, oh, so and so's, they're getting more followers, they're getting more likes. You don't want to go on these little metrics where you go, oh, what do we need to do to sort of outperform them? And we'll do a crazy little video that just kind of, so you don't want to get like metric happy, where it's just like, so like these little, ooh, they did that, so we're going to do this. But that's totally reactionary. You need to have a broader ownership and a better foundation. What do you really stand for? What's your role in the world? If you truly are actually providing a better service, a better product, offering a better destination, whether it be a city or a restaurant or whatever the hell it is, or even yourself as a person, if you're truly offering something of value, why the hell are you going to give it the short end of the stick, where you're not going to work out how to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? Because if you sound like everyone else, you know what? You will be perceived as everyone else. Branding and marketing are not a telepathic exercise. People aren't going to just go, oh, wow, I know Frank does good, therefore I will be attracted to Frank and I will learn more about him. It doesn't, it's not like some freaking psychic little Hollywood, sort of amazing movie where just magical things happen and charms are cast. No, you go through actions, you do things. So you have to be aware. Who are the other players in your space? What are they saying and doing? And are you saying and doing similar things? Even though you may actually be doing something very different and possibly even superior to them, if you sound like them, you'll be perceived as them. And one thing I tell people is you can't introduce the new by using the language of the old.
So you've been, again, I hate to keep saying this because I feel like it's the experiences that I really want to drill into the audience. To 40 years, I mean, it's a lot. And I can't even imagine, again, what you've seen. But doing this for 40 years, I feel like when people nowadays, now we're in this instant gratification society. We try stuff, it doesn't work. We're like, I'm going to try something different. And they're at a job for 6 months, they move, or they try to start a business and they don't put the effort in and they quit. And it's like, even the brand, I'm trying to become an influencer on social media and I don't get enough likes. Well, I'll buy them. That's all this craziness. So 40 years, that's amazing that you've been dedicated and so passionate about doing it. I mean, I see your content. I see the stuff you put out on your YouTube channel, and you do have a lot of fire behind you. So what is it that really, the fuel that keeps you going and that's helped you persevere and withstand everything? Because I know there's probably been a lot of ups and downs over that time. What's the fuel that keeps you going?
Restless curiosity. And I remember hearing this from the Beatles at one point, and I'm a big fan of the Beatles. I think that they're just they were so brilliant. Their output was amazing. The synergy was incredible. And one of the things was, and someone asked them, what about you guys? Like, we were always curious. Like, it's the what, to me, it's the what if factor. To me, it's the why not factor. It's like, why are we doing it this way? If I just have a built-in kind of detector that kind of goes off. Like if I hear something and I'm like, I've heard that 5, 10, 50, 100, 1,000 times before, you saying it doesn't make it relevant. It won't all of a sudden magically, because it's coming out of your lips. That's to me what I call people being like drunk on their own Kool-Aid. They're so myopic in what they look at in the world. They've lost perspective. There's our world, right? So if you and I, Frank, are looking at the world and we're looking at a brand, and we go, okay, there's David's view and what he thinks of. There's Frank's view and what he thinks of. Then there's the outer world. They're the Frank wannabes. They're those that you aspire to be like. They're the David wannabes and what I aspire to be like. And it's looking outward. So it's kind of like the microcosm here and the macrocosm and going, okay, what's out there? What is all the noise? Because if everybody's saying best, greatest, most knowledgeable, most influential, most this, most that, most that, you're never going to win on the what I call like the race to the top, which is out featuring everyone else, out promising everyone else. That's the only other lousy competition is the race to the bottom, which is, oh, they're doing it at this price, we'll undercut them. Those are two races that I would say ignore. Stay true to who you are, but identify who you are in a way that's going to be meaningful to others. It's not the notion of follow your passion and all become great. It's a great concept, and there is an inherent truth to it, but you need to take ownership where you go, okay, other people are going to hear of me who, before they've heard of me or my brand or my product, they've heard of this other product and this other product and this other product. How do I come and disrupt? How do I arrive and disrupt? Why me? Really answer the question, why me? Why my brand? Really answer it. And the first answers that you will come up with will be dismal. They will suck. You will hate yourself. You will. It's like, well, why me? Well, because we're the best. Why me? Well, because we've been in this for X amount of years. Why us? Because we're family owned. Why us? Because we're made in the USA. Why? All the same crap and BS noise that everyone else is saying. You saying it will make zero difference. You need to come out with something different. You need to, that's not only in words, but in look, in feel, so you're unmistakable.
So I want to really, because one of the things in this book here, and I'm sure this was very intentional. And those, again, if you don't have this book, go out and grab it. So this book is written. Anyone who's watching can see the font is pretty big. I don't know, 30-something point font. Yep. So which is intentional, I'm sure. There's some actually pictures in there for those who enjoy pictures as well. But I think a couple things. One of the things that I love that you talk about in here is that brands, they do things because that's the way they've always done it. It's like, we've always done it this way. And you talk about a lot of really intentional pieces in here that are not only, I think, okay, let's implement this. Let's think about this kind of, okay, makes sense. And you can reread this book because it's a easier read. So putting this book together, I like to just, sidebar away because you just touched on some great things. So thinking about the book and the reason you wrote the book, brands, what are they doing wrong? Where can they start to really, what can you fix? If you say, hey, listen, this is a piece of advice I would give to anyone tuning in who has a brand, here's what you need to do.
Totally. So the basic thing is that most companies go into marketing before they've actually worked out their brand story. I'm going to say that again. I cannot ever say, let's just start marketing. Let's just start selling. And they never work out their brand story. One thing that I tell companies is I say, look, if you do not work out your brand story in terms of, and that brand story is not only what you stand for and your values and your relevance and how you fit in the scheme of life, the big scope of things, as well as how you look. It's all bits and pieces all together. If you don't actually work that out firsthand, when you jump on the bandwagon of social media, all of a sudden you will now have amplified and multiplied the number of people and the speed with which you tell the world we're morons and we are clueless as to why the hell we matter. But we're quick on the draw, and so we're gonna be premature. It's kind of, and so that's the thing. there's a sequence. Work out your role first. Work out your relevance first. Work out what you look like and what you impact. I mean, I have a company that I just branded a few months ago, and within like 2.5 months, they closed a six-figure deal because of they looked the part and they didn't sound like all the others in their space. It's like they actually walked in, it's kind of like, what's the confidence level? We all know about buyer's remorse in terms of selling. It's like, are you going to do something that's going to undermine your credibility? Right? Why do that? Why open the door to that? So that's just a matter of accountability and ownership. So don't be so hasty to getting on social media and marketing before you've done your first job first, which is, why do you matter in the world? Why should I, as a potential customer, care? And trust me, like I said before, I'll repeat it because it will be overlooked and it will be ignored. Your first answers will repulse you. If they don't repulse you, then you're numb. Your first answers will be crap. They'll be shit. They will be utter shit, utter crap. They will. They always just are. It's kind of like you say, well, why are we? Well, we're nice and we're caring and we have, and we really take the time to do this and we do that and we take go the extra mile and blah, 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 like a shirt, blah, 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 blah. Just crap, right? Ugh. And it always happens. And that's fine. The problem would be you stopping. You don't stop there. You go, okay, shit, I'm on the right path, right? Blah, 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 shit. Blah, 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 shit. Blah, 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 crap. Good. You're on the path. Put it aside. Keep on going. Don't stop. Keep on going and go, okay, what are we really? Why do we matter? Why do we matter? What can we do differently? If we were doing this today, great question right now. If we were to start this today for a company that's been in business for 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years, or even if you're like been a startup and you've been like in your sort of perfecting mode for the last 6 months or a year and a half, it's like, good. If we were starting today, now, what would we have to say, do, and emote and convey to actually be dynamically relevant and disrupt things as they are? That's a powerful question.
So with in thinking about that and saying, people before they establish, their brand story and they're going to go to market and all this stuff, we see a lot of today. If you go on Google and you did like logo search, you got like Fiverr and all these companies.
Shoot me now. Just shoot me now.
$199. I'll give you your logo. So, and because I asked you this because I've seen you. I know you did the 19 questions every rebrand should ask, or before you do a rebrand. And I know that one of the logos you picked apart was Pepsi. I saw an article you did that Sears' logo. So, me, until I saw the story that you wrote on the Sears logo, like I was like, okay, I remember, I'm 42 years old, so I remember some of the Sears logos and stuff and seeing them. But you, like, and I look at them, first of all, you look at logos probably and tear them apart. I look at a logo and I'm like, okay, whatever, like it doesn't, it's not speaking to me. Most logos are not telling me anything when I see them. But when I looked at Sears in particular, when I read your story and you show it, I'm like, oh, he's right. Like, look at this. This is funny. It's the hut, the Airbnb more for whatever. And I'm like laughing because I'm like, now that you say that, it makes sense. And that's a big company, Pepsi, big companies, Gap, and all these brands that their logos everywhere, and you want, the recognition, the Nike swoosh. So a smaller company who's starting out and saying, hey, we want a great brand, we want to be known, we want to have the story, we want to stand out, we want to rise above the noise. How important is it to say, how important is the logo to a brand?
Well, put it this way: the logo is kind of like that's your soldier on the front lines. Okay. Do you want it to just blend in? Do you want it to just be easily shot and like put out of service? I mean, that's the thing. The job. All right. You've read the book, so the definition that I go over in the book, which no one had really isolated before, of the 10,000 books. Somehow they ignored a definition that everybody could agree on. The art of differentiation. 4 words. The art of differentiation. So if I'm designing a logo, I mean, of course, there's aesthetics and there's craft and there's various components and there's color and all these various things, but it all comes under the banner of is it successfully differentiating my client's company from all the other competition in the space? And the thing is okay, you're going to go, well, wait a second, things change and other companies are going to come and this. True, but let's take a look at, you go Apple, right? Apple has always had the Apple. At first it was the stripes with color, and then it got simplified, and more classy, and just like, but they stayed true to it. Coca-Cola has also done a great job of retaining an integrity. I mean, that logo is like, I don't know, I think about 120 some years old, but it looks fresh and relevant today because they're managing it well. So part of it is a management issue. I mean, Sears is a joke. I mean, first of all, even their new slogan, what is it, like, making moments matter? What does that mean? What does that mean to me as a shopper? I have no freaking clue what that even means. What honestly does that mean? Do you have a clue? I don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, so you have a meaningless brand in terms of look. What's your relevance? Like, I'll give you a great example. Like, Duluth Trading?
Yep.
Now, I think they're an incredibly well-managed brand. Their look is unmistakable. And then you have their ads, which are like these hysterical 15-second ads with the illustrations animated, and that guy who has that voice who goes, well, if your underwear feels like this, our underwear will feel like a hug, or whatever the hell they say, right? And so the thing is, but the voice, the pacing, they're short, unmistakable. I don't care how many other companies are going to come into that space, but they didn't make the mistake of trying to be like some other leader and trying to be really hip and appealing to the young girls who are going to spend some money. So they didn't go down that stupid road. So it's just a matter of find your truth, find your differentiation, and then really own it. And if you own it properly, you'll actually have the room to pivot. You'll actually have the room to pivot without diluting and being untrue to your brand.
That's great. That's great advice, and you're giving away some good tidbits, and I really appreciate that because I know the audience is really. The brand is so important now. We hear so much. I feel like there's a lot of noise about there about who should have a brand, why you should have a brand, how the brand should stick out, and there's a lot of people who are giving advice about brands, and you are definitely someone I truly respect. So love the advice you're giving here.
Absolutely.
And, so you see where we're at today. So actually, it's funny. I just talked about how crowded I feel like everyone was. Your brand. I'm a branding expert. I can help you do this. I can help you do that. And so and someone like you, hey, again, you've been doing this a while. That means a lot. I think that's you've seen a lot. Strategies. What, like, if I look at you and what you do, and I say, listen, David's worked with all these companies. You've tried different stuff. Like you said, it's not short term. So companies that try things and don't work, okay, how do we adjust? We tried this, it didn't pop, or whatever it is. So you have the ability and the knowledge to say, listen, I've worked with hundreds of brands. This is things I know that don't work. Don't even think about trying this. These are things that, could work if you try it, depending on the industry or whatever. And then here's things that, are like tried and true methods where you're like, I think if we do this, we'll have some success there based on this. So you bring so much value there because of your experience and because you have this wide scope of folks that you've worked with. So where are we going? Brands heavy today, where 5 years from now, what do you see? What are some predictions that you can throw our way?
Well, here's one prediction because I would hate to have people think, oh, branding is the trend that they need to like jump on that bandwagon. As long as there are people, branding is relevant because the art of differentiation, it's not like just differentiating it in a sea of on a shelf. It's differentiating it to whom? The consumer, the client. So as long as there are people, there will be the need for branding. That's just one thing. It cannot be overemphasized. So, now there are going to be changes and trends. There's going to be different stuff. Maybe there's going to be like, okay, one thing now, which was not a consideration when I started in this industry, was when I started my career, okay, there were no computers. Okay. There were no computers, no email, no internet, right? Okay. So there wasn't all that crap. Like the first 10, 11, the first 12 years into it. Then all of a sudden, this thing comes along. What the hell is this shit, right? Because spent all these years perfecting my craft and my this and that, the other. So the thing is that, but now today, I only mention that because of this, that, okay, now today, a key consideration is how does it need to look here? Because obviously this is a device that many of us will first come into contact with the brands, right? Boom, it'll be there. So the thing is, there may be new technologies that are going to be, maybe there may be, I don't know, whatever's. I mean, so that's just going to expand the opportunities. It's not going to change the fundamentals. That's the thing. It will open the opportunities, will not change the fundamentals. You always will still need to brand. It's kind of like, well, it would be similar to asking, when does listening go out of style if you're talking to a new salesperson? Well, when can I get the prospect to shut up so that I can talk? Never. You need to have listening skills. Period. Today, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 100 years, in 500 years, we will still need to have listening skills. That's part and parcel to selling. Okay? Well, part and parcel to having a business, part and parcel whether it's business, service, product, personal, city, destination. Don't care. You need to differentiate. You need to brand. That, I could talk about a lot of different things, but it's an important point that I just think is that people just get that, then that will help them avoid a lot of stupid mistakes and stay on the right path.
Love the insight. I think that one thing that's really true is that you said, as long as there's people, there's going to be the brand. So it's not just a trend. This is like, hey, you got to do this. Jump on the bandwagon. I feel like it is long term, and it's not going away. You said earlier, Coca-Cola, their logo has been around 100 and something years. So this is a forever game. So a couple things. One is that, you put out like I said, LinkedIn, you put out a ton of great content. You share a lot of great things, tons of tidbits. Your YouTube, for anyone who's tuning in, definitely find David on his YouTube channel. You got some great videos out there that are nice, quick, easy, digestible videos. So you can kind of get a ton of info in a short period of time. Again, the book, check that out, and I'll put links to everything so folks can find it. But so I'd love for you just to, as we close this out, folks tuning in to say, man, this guy is legit, because you are, and they want to learn more. I'd like, is there certain markets you work with, certain sizes of groups or whatever those? I don't want to, a bunch of people hitting you up that are, maybe shouldn't be, but I'd love for the folks tuning in to say, hey, this is who, if you're this person and you're listening, reach out to David.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, first to answer your question, definitely your guy totally invited to come to risingabovethenoise.com, RISING, risingabovethenoise.com. That's where there's over about 250 articles, tons of reference points, all kinds of stuff. It's an unbelievable, it's all stuff that I've written them. I've curated them. There are examples of brands that I've actually shows you the before and the after. It shows you transformations. That's someplace I would definitely invite, as well. There's a free ebook that you can get there as well. But in addition to that, the bottom line is I work with quite a wide variety of companies. The key thing is I always work with the CEO or founder or owner. Okay, I do not work with second or third tier because it's never proved successful. I don't need someone second guessing. Well, I think that so and so is looking at. No. I want to talk to who's got the original vision, who has the skin in the game, and if they have misconceptions and incorrect ideas, it's never going to filter down. So I help them by stripping away the trash, stripping away the false notions, stripping away the lack of ownership that they may have possibly, and I've worked with companies that have been, in the beginning, from startups to companies that are like 30 million and more. And a perfect example, a client of mine, we just had lunch a couple weeks ago. A client of mine, I branded his previous company and it exploded. It literally doubled in sales 4 years in a row. Okay. And this is like large jumps. And he ends up selling it, becomes exceedingly and independently wealthy. And after 5 days of retirement, He calls me up. He goes, David, I can't stand it. He goes, retirement is not for me. He goes, this is gross. And he goes, we got to have lunch. And so we have lunch. We sit down. Now, so this is a startup. Now, he has his own money, but the thing is, it's a startup. Okay. Well, 8.5 years later, it went from startup to $1 billion unicorn valuation. That's how much it's absolutely exploded. And they're the leader in this particular sector of technology. And, that's the kind of thing that can happen. I mean, it's just always amazing. And it's always the thing that I love is that I work in such different industries. I mean, I took a Napa Valley company, which was a young company. And the first year, they tripled 300% their sales. And they made these amazing shortbread cookies. Like once you open the package, you devour them. After eating theirs, everything else tasted like sandpaper. It was amazing what they did. Amazing product. First year was 300%. Second year was another 300. That's 900% growth in 24 months. Just because of the rebrand. Totally doing something that no one had ever done before in that space. And it's been done in B2B, B2C. I want to leave you and your listeners with one important thing. The notion of B2B and B2C is bullshit. Because you know what? There's a person at the end of the stick that's basically making the decision. They have different criteria if they're in a company. They have different criteria if they're making a personal choice. But the bottom line is well, we're B2B specialists versus B2C specialists. Have you done better? It's like, you know what? I've done so many firsts. Having done this for as long as I've done so many firsts. Those are the most exciting ones and the most exciting projects that I've never done something in that industry. So I have no preconceived ideas of what's possible. I have no, so I'm thinking in ways that people usually don't. And that's where the opportunities happen. So look, the bottom line is if someone is hungry and they're willing to put in the work, and they may be a startup phase, they may be a rebrand, they may be having a million, 5 million, 10 million in sales or whatever. That part isn't as important as, are you truly hungry and do you know that something can be better, something that's not really as good as it can be, or maybe possibly you realize we're doing something definitely wrong because everyone else is outpacing us, or people now see us the way we used to be 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and they're clueless of what we're doing today. That's probably the worst scenario. You are losing more money every day when you have that kind of scenario, hands down. Every day you're losing money. Stop losing money. It can be handled. I've done it so many times. It's ridiculous. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, well, that was, I think, more than answered, and you again threw in such a wealth of information. So really appreciate that. So again, I'll drop all the links for you to find David and definitely seek him out. There is he's not kidding. There's a ton of information on his website, so check it out. David, thanks again for being on the show. Thanks so much for giving so much value, and really I hope the audience does seek you out, and really you have so much to give. So thanks again for being on.
Absolutely. Shyness is overrated. If you think that I might be able to help you, reach out. Do not be shy. Trust me. It ain't gonna. In fact, and if you're feeling shy, buy my book. My book is Cured Shyness. That'll be the resolution there.
You heard it here, man. Reach out to him. Thanks again, man.
Absolutely.